My name is Katie Runkle, and I am presenting how a medium-sized church implements big church ideas specific to music ministry and worship ministry. So I'm going to record the session for people that aren't able to come today, and I'm excited to talk to you guys. I have done this presentation 4 times, but I changed it a bit with COVID because I think personally it impacted this ministry in higher ways than some other areas, right? Because we had to pivot a lot with music, just for safety and stuff in general. Hi, Gail, are you coming for slides?
No, we've got his papers. Looking for your tech guy. Mark's got a tech problem.
Oh, he's not going to be in here. Sorry, Gail. That's one of our associate pastors. That's his wife. Okay, so let's dive in. About me, this is the center of my world. This is Nolan. He's 2 and 4 months, and I gotta brag, he's fully potty trained, and he's just like the coolest kid in the world. He loves to sing. He comes up and conducts the choir with me. I'm just like, I'm in awe of this kid. He's awesome. I never knew if I was going to have kiddos, and my husband and I have been married for 10 years and waited quite a while before starting a family. And we've been together 16 years. And so it's a change in our dynamic to have a kiddo, but he's the best thing in the world, so. I have been the music director at Summit since 2014 and the director of worship since 2018. They changed that title when I had to start taking on more worship planning and programming and sound as well. I have a master's in performance from Johns Hopkins at Peabody. I'm a classical singer. I love opera. I'm a soprano. And with that comes, you know, a fun personality, I think. I work in arts administration, and I work in higher education as well. I'm the director of advising for the College of Performing and Visual Arts at University of Northern Colorado. So I am in charge of retention and graduation for 1,200 students. It's a full-time gig outside of Summit, but I'm passionate about my passions, and my passion is music and ministry and people and helping people, and that is, I think, both in my sacred and secular work. It just shows differently. So this is Julie. She's one of my helpers at Summit and our pastor's wife. You're okay. We are hanging out. It was definitely a good choice, though. Okay, so I grew up in ministry. I got involved in music when I was 15. My mom was also a director of music. I grew up Catholic, and so my mom was the director of music and children's ministry and volunteer ministry and full-time in a Catholic parish, in 3 different Catholic parishes as I grew up. I married a Lutheran. Yeah, and that joke has never stopped. I love it, right? Catholic, what's the phrase Jeremy always uses? Recovering Catholic?
Recovering it, and then he says, use your Lutheran words.
Yeah, use your Lutheran words. Yeah. I'm part-time at Summit, and this is what I oversee: worship, planning, contemporary and traditional music initiatives, special music initiatives, collaboration on camps, and I'm going to talk a lot about our camp launch that we're doing. It relates to children and music, because we're doing a creative arts camp this year. Music events, Christmas programs. I conduct the adult choir. I oversee sound equipment, and I run sound on a weekly basis. I oversee the praise team. I hire and recruit all paid musicians, and I coordinate volunteers and volunteer directors.
And this is your part-time job.
Yeah. That's true. That's my dog. Okay, so my pastor was like, wow, Nolan really replaced your dog on this slide, because I used to have just all photos of him. So anyway.
That's a poker
Yeah. I told him, go to something. He hasn't gone to one session yet. I hope he goes to one today.
In his defense, he's
He's been teaching all of them. About us, we're medium. We average 250 in worship weekly, and we have 634 baptized members, 474 confirmed. So just raise a hands, how many churches are bigger than this? I know you're a little bigger than this. You're a little bigger than this? What? About?
Just the unbaptized members, maybe like 202 different services.
Yeah. And then smaller, how much smaller? Or comparable?
It knocked us down to about 100 in person right now.
Yeah.
We were 225 before.
Are you live streaming currently?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to talk about our live stream setup. Maybe something will help you, or maybe I can hear about yours too. What about you guys? Right there?
We're about 140 between two services
Mm-hmm.
on Good Sunday.
About 150 between two services.
Cool. And traditional and contemporary? Anyone just one or just the other? Cool. Okay, we have 2 full-time employees, 6 part-time. This is our staff. I had to update this actually because we did gain, where's my little, if my dog was here, I'd ask him to find the laser.
In the middle. It's the middle one.
Oh, there it is. We added 2 part-time assistant pastors during COVID. The hope of one of them was like online ministry. One actually really focused more on elderly. That was Gail's husband, Mark, really does more senior ministry for us and keeping up with our seniors weekly, like especially the ones that haven't come back. And then PJ joined us, actually, I think just slightly prior to COVID.
He was a pastor who was going on to become a counselor. So
Yeah.
he was going to school.
Yeah, and he
Just kind of jumped in and helped out preaching and gave Jeremy.
just finished his master's in counseling at Colorado Christian.
He actually came from our church.
Did he?
Yeah, his parents go to our church.
Oh, PJ? Well, his mom does? Yeah. Awesome. Small world. Okay, and then we have a lot of volunteer. Our directors of music, like for individual groups or volunteers. Here's our staff, and here's our structure. So that's me, director of music or worship, and we've got 3 bell groups associated with the bell director. The praise team lead is paid stipend and reports to me, and then our praise team is flows down to her. The choir flows down to me, and the youth choir music currently flows down to me, and then our organist as well. So strategies to prepare worship monthly, part-time. We do this by order of importance. We run a lot of series at Summit of Peace. And so, hey, morning, how are you? We do this in order of importance. The series always comes prior to the theme, and the themes are folded into the series. We do our planning intentionally kind of 1 month at a time at least, right? Obviously, sometimes we're much farther out than that, like with Easter coming up or whatnot, we're already kind of talking about the themes. But the pastors will give me a heads up on what's coming next theme-wise, but then they'll program all of it into Planning Center, and they'll give me a series theme and a sermon theme. And then from there, I can pull what I want to ribbon it all together with like music themes and threads. And I am very programmatically focused because I have a master's in music, and with my master's in music being specifically in voice, I'm way too passionate about lyrics and how those lyrics intertwine to the readings and to the sermon theme. But if you'd ask me what my favorite part of my job is, 100%, that's my favorite part. So series themes, readings, songs and hymns, and then special music. And we do try to tie our special music into. My husband sometimes is like, Katie, no one else cares. I do, so that's what matters. Planning Center, who else here uses Planning Center? Awesome. So small information plug for people that don't use Planning Center. It's the other one I learned about in a series yesterday from a church in North Carolina. Do you guys know, anyone else remember what the other big competitor is to Planning Center? It's like Worship Online or something? Does that sound right? Do you? Yeah, it's another planning software. Regardless, yeah. Yeah, I love Planning Center. I think it's a really great tool if your church doesn't have it. It's very, I think, affordable, and there's different package types. So you should take it back to your pastor and show them. I'm going to show you what it looks like internally too, but this is like, we've got it down to special service, traditional, and then below that would be contemporary. And then I pulled new screenshots for this of things coming up. You can see here we're doing a Signs of Lent series for our Advent Wednesdays, Stop, Merge, Yield, One-Way, Dead End. And we've got some really cool slides for that. Our pastor's daughter is going to go to school for graphic design, and she's starting early, working for the church, so I really like that one. This is how the series theme and sermon theme look. Series theme versus sermon theme. Prep the series with the pastor for high holidays. We will occasionally meet, and this is where I find efficiency. The pastor and I will meet to talk about requests that he has, and then to find some consistency specifically for high holidays. We do this. Like, we'll do this a few weeks prior to Advent or a month out if he's got his ideas fleshed out and stuff. And then we'll look through continuity of like, okay, well, if we start this new song here, will the church really know it 2 weeks later? So it can be like really an impactful song on the sermon. And can we start it at the prelude spot so it's introducing the song, and then we can move it to like ending and then sermon theme? Like, we want some continuity in the programming by the month too. Yeah.
We don't use that program in our church. So the information that's populated in there is almost like a shared drive.
Yeah, it's like a login service, and then I'll have some other views too of like the actual service view for traditional and contemporary. But you can see all the different parts of the service. You can see the team on the service. You can see the band. You can label it by like what their part in the service is, who the pastor will be, what time's the rehearsal. You can automate emails to your volunteers. It's really great. Yeah. You can also import a hymnal into it, and then you can tie it to CCLI, Song Select, stuff like that. It'll import in your preferred key, the lyrics. ProPresenter, you can just export the lyrics to your slides. There's an app, and there's a music stand app associated too, and then you actually can do a live feature on it. I've never cared to do the live feature. But you can go live, and then it'll track the service with you, but you have to really know your times for that. Everyone else here, anyone else doesn't use these?
I love Henry.
Yeah, hymnary really helps me with the hymnal. Order to prepare worship weekly. The majority of you here, if you do, I think everyone here uses these.
Oh, I thought you said you did. My
Yeah.
apologies. Okay.
No worries. I think I was later to the game on hymnary. I started programming for 10:30 earlier than I started programming for, even though my music's background is classical, so, but hymnary has been really great to help me figure out some like alternate tunes, even like how to switch out the alternate tune of the hymn and the lyrics if I really want to run this one song, but the tune is ridiculously obscure and I can figure out, I know the hymnal has it in the back, but like I'm a millennial, so. Order to prepare worship weekly, I'll pull the readings, obviously, and I know this is basic for some of you, but I always think it's really impactful to kind of break this down all the way, right? Like, I'll read the reading a few times, I'll pull key terms out of it, and then I'll search in Planning Center. I hope I have this view later. I think I do. I'm going to jump. No, it's at the very end. You can search in Planning Center by song keyword, And then you can look in your band's library, essentially, as opposed to just the entirety of CCLI, right? And you can know, like, okay, well, we do this song all the time, and it's a keyword on that song, and then you can look at the context of that song with the keyword. So it helps me narrow it down and be as impactful as possible. We generate these from Planning Center, so we have a professional view of the agenda. And this is the internal one, like this is not our bulletin, right? But this is the internal that every person in the sound booth has this. Slides person has this, camera person has this, sounds person has this, every band member, organist, pianist, pastors, worship coordinator, everyone is running on this. We can add notes, we can add whatever associated. And then this is, something I have to ask myself. We were talking about this already, but how many new songs can we introduce at a time? This has been a conversation recently because I get a little antsy with my song selection. And so I'll do 2 songs occasionally and new ones instead of 1. And my band lead gets mad at me, and so do my singers. And sometimes the pastor, when they're like, we didn't know that one. And I'm like, but it's on the radio. You should all know it, right? Because that's the only music anyone listens to. Songs that the congregation will recognize and feel comfortable with. Adam Countryman, who went to his talk yesterday on hospitality, I love listening to Adam. He's just funny. You take the same thing from that, right? Like, do your congregants trust you, right? Do they trust you here too, right? Like, not only his point of view was more based in on stage, altar, wherever, whatever your setup is. Do they trust you to follow along? But also, do they trust your programming? Are they coming into that church being like, God, I hope I know the song today? Or, God, I hope the key works and I can sing it, right? So I think that we have to be really intentional on that. I'm just going to leave this up for a quick second so you guys can see. We do opening, invocation, opening. Like, this is very much traditional structure, right? Children's message prior to Old Testament. We often will have a special music song in there prior to the gospel, or our special music will be right before or after the children's message. The thing on that is I typically feel like there's too much singing back to back. So I'll usually move it between the Old Testament and the gospel. Straight into the creed, or the creed will be often after the sermon. And then we always have a sermon song that ties into the message, and then often we'll have a takeaway song on the offertory for reflection. The takeaway song for us in COVID changed more to interlude music, and the interlude music will bring back a line or verse or refrain or something of something we've done similar, or in our praise spot or in our sermon spot at the Contemporary, and then it'll just be instrumental music. And for that, it was clear, right? Like, we had no one in the building, and we just wanted our offering slide up for 30 seconds. So they played under it, right? But now that we're half in person and half hybrid, I'd say we're 90% in person, maybe 80. Some weeks are better than others because like when they put the mask mandate back in November in Colorado, we saw our live stream jump back to like 50. And our live stream was holding at each service like 110, 150 for a while there in like heavy COVID. And then it was dropped. I saw some weeks it was at like 8. And I was like, wow, everyone's really back. And then back to 50. So you'll see it in waves. We've talked a lot about service order, like whether or not we want to pull communion up. Every time I come here and they do communion at the beginning, I want to switch it. But right now we do sermon, offertory, service parts, distribution, benediction, closing. And did I have Contemporary is really the same. this is the one I want to play with. But I also don't want like there to be too much ragdoll effect. Okay, so this is at the heart of what we do. Every ministry ties back to our mission. If you guys didn't have an opportunity to come to Jeremy's mission talk in the first session, consider like kind of tagging that as one you listen to as a podcast when you're driving. You can download or listen to everything prior from the conference today. There's today and yesterday, there's like 5 or 6 I've already tagged to go back and listen to because there were too many at the same time that I wanted to hear. But all of ours, for the most part, are recorded, and we talk about how we redetermined our mission prior to COVID. We did this work back in 2014, yeah. And grow in faith, share the faith, live the faith. And we use the gifts God sent us. We take our ministry out into the community, and we bring our ministry in through we bring our community in through our ministry, excuse me. So what are the 3, it's
What are you asking?
the 3 words that we use. No, the as, at, and.
Serve,
Oh,
someone of peace. Serve at, someone of peace. Serve as.
Yes. Serve, as, and at.
Serving is, you're in the choir, you're our usher. Serving at is you're one of our community events. Habitat build, whatever, and serve as is in your vocation.
Yeah.
We talk about those 3
So when you go back to the mission, I think it really like clearly defines what you're there for, right? Like the music ministry can get bogged down in programming. Sometimes it can get bogged down in events. Sometimes it can get bogged down in like expectation, like, well, we have to have you this, we have to have you with that, we have to have you, and then it's just bogged down in scheduling, really, when it boils down to anything. And so we try to bring our ministry back to the ministry of our congregation, the mission of our congregation. So the one I've really bolded there is bring your community in through your ministry. This is really the goal of our year. That's 2022 for us, because it can finally be, right? After the last 2 years, we had to use our ministry to serve virtually for the longest time and take our ministry to our congregants and maybe to our community through live stream if they decided passively to join us, right? But what we want to do this year is bring our community in through our ministry. So whether a small or medium church, all decisions must be intentional. Worship is grow. When you go back to this, grow in faith, worship is our grow in our mission statement. Does the music intentionally root in helping members grow in their faith? Is it accessible? Is it invitational? Is it welcoming, right? Is it hospitable? And so that goes back to key choice. That goes back to courtesy and whether or not they know the song. That goes back to how many times you're asking them to sing in the service. So helpful tools, strategic meetings. We try to do, ironically, I've been part-time for 8 years, and we never started Zoom meetings until COVID, right? Like I was finally accessible for like some of our Tuesday tactical meetings that the other staff do when the world shut down. So, but now I can like hide in my office at school and close the door and jump on Zoom and add my 2 cents to the meeting. But we listen first. We don't have a decision already made. We try something new. We set goals, and we find ways to measure the results constructively. So some of that comes back to feedback from the congregants. Some of it comes back to feedback from the band, or how many additional members want to join your ministry? I mean, yes, there's a resource issue there sometimes with how many members you have in general, but like, if a ministry feels welcoming, oftentimes you'll see more people join it. Does your ministry have cohesion, or are you kind of siloed? Like, music is music at its core, right? So one thing we've been really intentional about recently in the last 2 or 3 years is trying to ensure the bells and the choral music is all in the same place, right? We started this year a music night. We had music rehearsals on 4 out of the 5 weeknights. And it was like burnout city for some of our families. And it also made it so that we read Simple Church, and we were really intentional with Simple Church. It's a great book if you haven't read it. A few years ago, and that was like the one thing I kept feeling like we weren't applying Simple Church to. And it was primarily the mentality of our bell director. She just wanted to accommodate the families instead of accommodate herself. And eventually we just had to really say, the families have to choose, right? Like they have to prioritize one or the other. And you can't change that rehearsal so that you get those 2 people that you really want to play when it's causing you to come to the church 3 nights a week or whatever. So we changed that, and we tried to drill back to the mission there.
So now you have music night.
Yeah.
You have music night at church every Tuesday.
And it's magical, right? Because some of the high schoolers can go from the adult choir to the high school bells, and they're just there for 2 hours. Some people have to choose and only go to one, and that really helps them out. Julie?
That's just me. How many hours are you doing that?
3.
3 hours.
Yeah.
But it's one night.
5:30 to 8:30 is music night. And then if we ever have a special music thing for kids, we'll do it in that 5:30 hour. If it's like solos, duets, trios, things like that. So I'll come early. This is the way I structured it at least. I'll come early. I'll do like the little duet with the 2 kiddos and prep that because I know my pianist will be available in that block. I know the space will be available in that block, etc. And then the adult choir is at the same time as the adult bells. Yeah, the adult choir is at the same time as the adult bells. At least it was originally. She's she's consolidated her 3 groups into 2.
Not everyone's back, so we used to have 3 bell choirs.
And at the moment we have 2. We had 3 last season in fall, and then in spring here she's decided to make it 2 groups for like just, I'm happy she's doing it. Yeah. And then that also allows us to collaborate with the bells and the choir at the same time. We don't have to call one of the other groups back if we want to do a piece with the choir and the bells at the same time. No one has to change their week around. And then the biggest thing I think for us is, do you consider your ministry a life group? So we have a huge intentionality for life group at our church. We've gone from, we tried 10 groups always, and we're down to 8. 10 to 12 is our goal. We've had more like 8 here at the end of COVID. The beginning of COVID, I think we had that in big Zoom groups. You don't want more than 10 people in a group, right? Maybe 12, if it's couples. Because you want those life groups to be small enough so that they can dive into scripture or dive into a book or dive into content that the pastor develops for a sermon series. I think the most participation is in fall, personally, because it's like we do it church-wide. We do a sermon series, and then we have a life group associated to it, and the pastoral staff will build the life group series that'll go along with the sermon. And I feel the largest pull to do that one particularly, because I know I won't have to prep something. I know I won't have to read something. I have a 2-year-old and another job, right? So like, I feel like I can manage that more than I can manage some of the other ones.
How often do your groups give special music?
Oh yeah, I'll cover that for sure. Yeah, thank you. My choir, I want to talk about this too, right? The special music I've pared down since COVID. I don't know if it's where I'm at in my life cycle as a young mom, or if it's my coming back from a time that was much quieter and not necessarily wanting to go to the far extreme that I was at prior. But I've pared it down a bit. But I feel like it's a better balance now. And so what I'll do for the choir is I am a professional musician, and I try to push my volunteer musicians to that same place. So I don't give them a lot of prep for services. They get 2 rehearsals for a song. And they've come up to that standard consistently. And so,
It's 2 very good focused rehearsals.
yeah, 2 hours of rehearsal over 2 weeks. I'll give them the song ahead of time. I'll give them the recordings to listen to. We'll run parts at the first one. We'll run dynamics more at the second. If we're going into a high season, I'll try for 3 weeks. Or if I'm doing a concert, I'll try for 3 weeks. I break down their rehearsal structure for 2 songs a week or 1 song for 2 weeks. I'll overlap it, and then I'll see if I have a lot of songs coming that I need to bring them up higher. So I can share that document over Google Drive or our Bitly. I'll put in there my choir rehearsal schedule.
So we have special music,
Yeah,
something special music pretty much every Sunday.
not anymore. I'd say 3 out of the 4 weeks. 3 out of the 4 weeks we'll have a special music song, but not necessarily at both services anymore. It used to be we had to do it at the 8 and the 10:30.
And one will be choir, the next one will be bells, the
Yep.
next might be an ensemble. Again, trying to
Yep.
cut the groups slack.
I've given us the opportunity to kind of have 1 off week more, and then I'll try to tie that to like President's Day, Memorial Day.
They're not at all services that way.
Right, yeah, I don't do it at all services anymore. I used to do, choir had to be at 8 and 10:30, and there's some choir members that have been in the group a while, and they're like, why aren't we at both, right? But I want the takeaway from the worship service to be at the forefront, not necessarily the choir always sings at both, so we have to put it in. No, we don't have to put it in. We have to choose intentionally whether or not we want to put it in. And so I'll try, if it's like a upbeat choir song, I'll put it as I really liked that. I did it as the prelude spot. We did Walk by Faith, and it's got a percussive solo on it. I think it's Joel Rainey, Walk by Faith. And I put it as the prelude spot after a band song. So I did a band opener, choir came in and sang, and then the service started. It felt nice to me. And the choir didn't have to stick around for the entirety of the second service because we are a medium-sized church, right? My choir is 20-ish people, 25 people. I don't want them sticking around for 4 hours every time the choir sings. I feel like that doesn't add to retention. We add prayers to the end of every rehearsal. We speak to our group about the piece we've selected and what it means to the service, how it's impacted by the sermon, how it's related to the sermon theme. We give a ministry-wide present at Christmas to keep in mind that we're all together in one ministry. We'll have a barbecue to bring in unity for the ministry. We still haven't done this. This is the one thing, this is the one thing I wanted to do, add the mission statement for the ministry to every stand and folder. We got to do that. That's my takeaway. I say that every year.
That'll be our goal.
Yeah. We came here in February of 2019, as everyone else did. No, 2020. February 2020. And then 3 weeks later, the world shut down, right? So I got distracted on my takeaways last time. Use the gifts God sent you. Who are your leaders? Who can you build up into a leader if you don't have someone in the queue now? If you don't have enough volunteers, you don't have enough jobs. This is something our pastor says a lot. If you don't have enough volunteers, it's because you don't have enough jobs. Break it into more.
The jobs that exist are too big, is what that means.
I'm looking at you back there.
Chop them up into smaller pieces.
Find some volunteers, right? And then supervise them, right? If that's the only resource they can do for you, yeah. Train your replacement, okay? No one is their church. You're not your church. Train your replacement.
The other thing he says is any job you take, you have 2 jobs. To do the job and train your replacement at the same time. Have somebody that you know can take it if you're not there.
And if you're paid If you're a paid staff member that's called to a church, obviously you're not going to train your replacement, but you can train your volunteers' replacements. You can have someone in the queue for if you know your volunteer is burning out, or if you know you want them to have a 3-month sabbatical from their position to give them a little more longevity. Find them someone that you think is competent, train them up, have them train them up, and then once they're plugged in, put them somewhere else until the other person, moves into another place of the church.
In order for you to go on vacation,
Yeah.
who do you go to when you need to go on vacation?
These are my heavy hitters, Julie, Ty, and Ann. Ann's my director for bells, Ty's my lead. Doesn't he look like a lead singer? He's really good. And Julie's my everything. She's not one of she's all of them.
I am your backup.
Yeah. COVID. So one of the presenters in the main room used a COVID picture. I think it was Runch. And I was like, hey, I did that too. Okay, so what did our ministry become and our mission become when COVID hit? It wasn't choir every Tuesday night and bells 3 times a week anymore. How did we use our time? How did we still serve our ministry, our people, our congregation? Online choir, outdoor worship services, new music content that we could publish weekly or monthly, primarily our bells. That was easier because I could mask them and they could play in the sanctuary. We could film it, we could edit it, we could put it up.
It was the easiest one.
Yeah. I did learn to mix. So I've always had skills on the computer for GarageBand and whatever else. I learned tech software in undergrad, freshman year of fall. So it's a while ago. But I do know some software. So I made a virtual choir video. I made a virtual children's choir video. I made a virtual video for a funeral that was happening for grandkids to do a song. We did what we could for families, right? Outdoor carnival with live music. That was when we were opening back up, but we still wanted to stay safe, so it was outdoor carnival. That was September-ish. And then updates on progress to a better experience for your ministry, right? So we were okay, now we can do some projects. For us, that became sound and live stream. Who had live stream when you went under? Who already had it?
Who was already live streaming before?
So 3 of you. How many is live stream now? Everyone, right? How many of you used a Mevo? Did anyone use a Mevo? Did all of you just go straight to the huge setup? Yeah?
What'd you use?
We were already screening them up to shut-ins. And so and I'm not the one who works the cameras, my tech guy does that. But we already had a fixed camera and a PTZ.
Yeah.
So we just used those and then controlled them through software.
Anyone else want to share?
We had just installed a PTZ camera right before,
Just one?
just one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, we quickly added a second one,
Yeah.
just so we could.
We started just with Facebook Live on my phone in my living room. My family happens to be a quartet.
Cool.
Children were all stuck home, all had to come home. So we built children
Yeah.
up instruments.
Yeah.
Laura was the software manager, and I was, singing, running Facebook, monitoring Facebook, and all of that. And we have some great pictures of what it looked like.
I love that.
I am a pastor's wife, yeah.
You became the catch-all for everything.
Everything we set up, our whole living room, we had furniture, we had a table, we set up.
Wow.
It was a big.
If you haven't heard it enough, thank you. Thank you for we know what that is.
Yeah, our country is very, 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 good and thankful.
Yeah.
So, but that's where it started, and then we were doing that for about 2 months, 2.5 months, and then we were able to bring some tech folk into the church. So we kind of started getting people ready, we're leaving the living room now, we're going back to the sanctuary. So we did it in the sanctuary, it's just my family of 5 for a little while.
Yeah.
And then we brought some tech folk, because we were really fearful that people were going to bombard us, you're in there, we got to get in too.
Right.
And so we locked the doors behind us, quietly went in, and the tech people were up in the choir loft, so they were more than,
Yeah.
physically distant from my family. And so that way we were able to stay unmasked as well, which made the presence better for people
Yeah.
to see more. And then the tech team just slowly but surely started adding all of the components to the full live stream.
So I think our narrative is all kind of similar, that our task at hand was live stream, live stream, live stream, right? Then we did what most small churches had to do, medium-sized churches had to do. We caught up, and equipment was on back order,
Live stream
right?
was on our agenda for
Yeah.
like a year or two later. Like, we actually had.
We had it on our action plan.
To when to buy the cameras and when we were gonna do all that.
So luckily, we had some research done.
And so we had the research about, all of them were like, oh my gosh, we're not ready. Like, we thought we had another year. for
So
this,
I got called by Jeremy, and he was like, I want to put you in charge of the live stream implementation. And I was like, I think I laughed.
And you're just like, I don't know anything about it. Like, what are you doing?
Like, I have a degree in opera, and I was like, it took me long enough to be like, aux, 1/4 chord, like converter chords, like patch chords, like whatever. Like, it took me the longest time to own my sound, because I'm not even an instrumentalist that had to use mics. Like, my craft is not needing a mic. My craft is snooty, right? Like, my craft is like, I don't need one of those. I'm loud enough, right? Like, my mic is inside. So then having to go into live stream. But honestly, I'm so grateful. I feel like I'm empowered. I know so much.
But we started where some people are, so I said start that first Sunday.
Yeah.
It was my husband's camera.
Oh, yeah. And then we bought a Mevo.
Live, here's the first one, and then, because all the stuff was backed up, getting the equipment, right?
Right.
Even though we knew what we needed, it was gonna take forever to get it, so then we started with a Mevo,
Yep.
which is a one camera, but it can only go so far.
And so what Phil said, was anyone in Phil's session before this one? Yeah. He said a Mevo is built for a conference room. And I was like, huh, that makes sense, because the fisheye lens, right? Like, built to see the whole conference table. And every church in America was using a Mevo. We did a sanctuary update. So the update on Progress to a Better Experience became, hey, guess what? We're tearing down some walls.
That was our sound room.
This was our sound room. This was the little hole I got to see things. Here I am with my pre-Sonos. I just upgraded to an Allen & Heath SQ6. That's a $4,600 board. I fainted when my first session, they were like, yeah, we have a Yamaha CL5, 30 grand for that board. Like, I'm sorry, my entire live stream setup was $12,000, right? Like, we're medium. And the more of these sessions I'm going to at this conference this year, I'm kind of starting to determine every church feels like they have to be a broadcast channel, essentially. And I do think we have to be a little careful about it. We have to make sure we go back to intentionality with it, because I'm not a movie studio. We're not a movie studio. And I respect 100% production value, 150%. Needs to look professional, needs to look clean, but it also needs to look community-based, in my opinion. And we're
If it gets too smooth and too practiced, it doesn't feel good.
we're used to networks, right? Paramount, Peacock, they're all changing names. CBS is Paramount, Peacock is NBC, right? Yeah, there you go. We're used to networks. We have to be careful that we're not becoming networks, because then I could go to San Antonio. I'm living in Colorado. I'm a member of San Antonio Concordia. I'm really impressed with their content. Like, whenever we were changing things, we would look at San Antonio. What are they doing? And so, but I don't have a connection to those people. I have a connection to my people, my church family. And so I think that just needs to stay in the conversation, because we're not networks. So we tore down some walls. We built a sound booth. We found a member of our congregation that had a background in construction And he was an incredible person and donated so much time. We gave him a free flight to see his son go play baseball as a thank you, and some gift cards for hotels, I think. And this is what our space looks like now.
And so to clarify, again, when this all started, if you go back, we didn't have, no, go back the other one. There. So on the right is the soundboard. That was the only thing that was in that room to start with.
Right, so we had to buy all of this.
The middle screen, that's our camera.
And I actually-
Live stream feed. Now on the left is the projector. That's where the pro presenter and the projector. That was up in our balcony.
Yeah,
So as we
our
start
pro presenter was in balcony.
We have a person in a room with a door and a window doing sound. We have a projectionist up in a completely separate part of the building.
Yep.
Doing projection. And we've got a guy sitting out in the congregation on Mevo running the camera, and there's no ability to communicate between the three. And so it was one of those first things we said, okay, we've got to get, everyone's on their phone. They started text thread.
We had text threads every week
Right?
with whoever the three people were to try to get them in the same place.
So this was like, we're all in heaven right now.
And I know a lot of people want a production room. Like, I know a lot of big churches want production rooms, but like, the fact of the matter for us was we didn't have a space for that. Like, we looked actually at switching. Yeah. We looked at switching the sound room to the children's room, which was outside the sanctuary, and then bringing the children's room into that small cove, and then changing it to a glass window. But we were having issues with like cable running to do that, so we kept it where it was. We already had enough mics cabled to here. We already had our bass amps cabled to here. We have, you know, like the structure underneath, we can go under the church and into the rafters and whatever.
Yeah, those are hollow floors.
So we kept it here, but I know there's value in a production room, a media room, a broadcast room where the sound is just what's coming in and you can see that. That's not us. So,
May I ask a question?
yeah.
In the photo on the right, in relationship to where all of that is, where's the altar?
The altar is like there.
Okay.
So this is the side. So that's the altar. This is the back of the church. That's the sound booth. It's the back corner.
So, again, not perfect, because in a perfect world, we'd be in the center of the back of the building.
Right. Oh, you can kind of see here, look.
With everyone.
Here's the sanctuary.
Oh,
There's the altar. It's fine though. Honestly, I love being right next to my organist.
And so keeping in mind, there's the organist, and those risers are where the choir stands to sing, where the praise band plays.
Yeah.
They're in the back of the sanctuary.
Side.
Yeah.
So how did you work cameras to be able to get them
Yeah.
and the back?
So what you can't see in this photo is our newest camera. We added a fourth camera right here. And this is an older picture, actually. We have an antenna here now. We have an antenna here now for our in-ear monitors for elderly, for a higher signal strength. And then we have a camera right here to go down onto the organist's hands, and then to go across to get singers, and then to get a side angle. And then so I actually wrote down what we have. We got an Ajax Hilo as the hardware switcher. We have Bird Dog PTZs. We got a Blackmagic box. Phil said today Blackmagic boxes like putts out on you. We'll see. Ours has been fine. Ours is great. We got a Bird Dog joystick to move our cameras, and we use that. The camera people use that, not the switcher. Camera angles on the Blackmagic box. We have Pro Presenter for slides, and we bring it all in through the Blackmagic box and everything. Let's see, the hardware encoder. Yeah. I just took notes in there. We did all of our live stream for under 15,000. We just bought a new soundboard, the SQ6. That's $4,650 is the price I got because he quoted me low, but it's supposed to be $4,800. And then the pre-Sonos board is what we had. And we're selling ours for $1,500 right now for anyone that's looking for a digital board that has like an analog right now, but it's kind of half digital. It's not fully digital, which is why we're switching to an Allen and Heath. We did 3 cameras originally. We just added a 4th. We have 4 monitors in our sanctuary across the front. The TVs, you can kind of see them here. and we do slide projection up there. We don't currently do image magnification. I think we'd like to get there so that we can like put up there a view from the back camera of the baptism for the people in the back to see it. I think we want to get there. We're not there yet. And our live stream feels a little more like a fly on the wall, but we do have Zoom capabilities with our PTZs, and we have some really good camera operators. Julie's a camera operator, and she used to be in broadcasting, and my husband's a video operator, and he's incredibly visual. So, like, we've got, yeah, that's everything I had. Those are the rest of the notes. Yeah, we have 3 people running the booth. And so like when Phil was saying 10 people, you should have 10 production staff, I was like, that is beyond unrealistic for us. Phil's awesome, totally respect him. He really helped us a lot. Talked to him a lot during COVID to try to figure out what we should do. We can't do 10 people, we can barely have 3, right? Like I only trust a few people on my board. I would prefer to be on my board than to sing. Because I want a good sound, I want a balanced sound, and that's the sound. The music's only as good as the sound person. Sometimes, right? They can really mess you up. So they say like put your A person on live stream sound and put your B person on in-house sound because it's more forgiving in-house. We do it all on one board. We do have it mixed separately in different spots.
But it's one person.
One person mixing, and it's me. Because I trust my ear. I trust Julie's ear. I trust a few other people. Worship online. This is actually more communication based, but we did a lot of like communication out to how our music was still impacting our congregation and providing for them. Outdoor worship. We did this in summer. It was so popular. We brought it back this summer, even though we were allowed to be in person. But I begged them, like, please only just once a month. Like, don't make me lug this all out. I had to buy an outdoor soundboard with more channels. We bought a Behringer outdoor board. I mean, it's not an outdoor board, but we had powered speakers, so I needed a board for the powered speakers outdoor, and it did everything I needed it to. Joy in the City was our come back to worship service. That's my little guy when he was tiny. He's so little. Here's our band outside, 6 feet apart. It's just funny to see this all. We had an outdoor Christmas service the first year in 2020. Here's all of our Christmas trees in the parking lot. Here's everyone singing. Here's candlelight service outdoor. We had building capacity limits. So we did it outdoor. I got COVID on Christmas Eve. I tested positive Christmas Eve, December 2020.
That could not have happened at a worse time.
I think it took me about 10 months to get over that.
Christmas dinners.
Emotionally. It didn't take me 10 months physically to get over it, but it took me 10 months emotionally to get over that. Summit of Peace, Be Still My Soul. We did, songs that were allowed. This was one of our highest. It reached 3,000 people.
They got shared a lot.
1,500 views, tons of shares, 190 shares.
Boxes of.
I don't know if, here it is. The Lord is on thy side. I put the lyrics on the bottom. I blended all of the vocals. We put it on Facebook. We did it with the kids too, like all the little kid clips I got. A lot of people can do this. Like you can find someone in your congregation to do this. I mean, provided we ever need to do it again. But it's also kind of fun just to have. You can put it on the screens in church, even if it's just video content that you're editing. Our bells were busy. These are all videos they did during COVID. They did a lot of videos. This is what I really want to get into. Do you have any questions about that before we change? Like streams of consciousness? Cool. So, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to ask, when you showed your worship board, like how many songs do you usually have at a service?
5 to 6. We'll do prelude, opening, praise, sermon, communion, closing. So 6. And then if there's no communion, we'll do an offertory song. We have kept the we'll bring the communion to you at second service. They like it, and then we only have to do 1 praise song instead of 2 praise songs. It used to be 7. It's also helped with band prep. We only rehearse our band. My band is professional. I pay all my musicians, except my volunteer singers from the congregation. I'm not blessed with a lot of instrumentalists in my church. I'm just not. I tried for a long time to just make a volunteer group. I don't have it. So I paid my band. I work in college, so I work in a school of music. And prior to that, I worked in a different school of music. I have resource to find people. So we pay our band. Each band member gets $75 a service. That's my Colorado rate. My lead gets $85 a service, and she gets $150 stipend a month to sequence the music, pick the keys, work with the slide person weekly to make sure the slides are accurate and all of that. The band is electric guitar, bass, acoustic guitar, drums, lead singer. Am I missing someone? Keyboard. Yeah, keys. No, I said drum, keys, 2 guitars, bass, singer. Yeah. So I pay 6 people, and then I have a secondary singer that rotates from the congregation that is not paid. Yeah. Yeah.
And you find how is their integration into your worship service?
Fine. Yeah, I mean, the biggest issue is sometimes we find them on their phones too much, but I try, professionality comes from every field, right? So professional musicians aren't going to come in and be disrespectful. They know they're there for a paycheck. They know they're there to provide a service. And they want to be hired back, so they'll stay professional, always.
It's been interesting because it's an outreach for us.
Yeah.
To these musicians. We actually have one who is right now considering joining.
Yeah, and
Another one who's been our drummer since
Yeah.
the very beginning.
and he calls it his church.
And he calls it's his church.
He says our church.
So it is an outreach. It's an opportunity to reach somebody. So
And it's a
if we're professional,
yeah.
we don't play with our same faith. That's okay.
And for me, production of quality, high production value means high professional sound, more than video, honestly, to me. No. And it's not distracting, right? Like, so the quality isn't distracting. Right. You want people, and like we've had multiple members, especially millennials, be like, we come here because it's really good music. Like, nothing against preaching or pastor. Like, our pastor's incredible, that's why I'm there. But like the pastor keeps them, the music brings them, right? They're like, oh, I'm cool, we're good. And then they hear the service, they hear the sermon, they come back, right? So find ways to bring your ministry visible. Did that help? Yeah, cool. Find ways to make your ministry visible to your community outside the walls of the church. Vary the groups you take into the community to impact different subgroups that will learn about your church. We go to Winterfest every other song. Winterfest is like a holiday community event.
Thornton Christmas Winter Festival.
Yeah. And we bring our band. We brought our band 4 or 5 times. And between every other song, we say, hey, we're from Summit of Peace. We're on 136th and Holly. We have services at blank, blank, and blank. Love to see you there. Here's our next song. You know, like Christmas music, you can take anything out into the community, and it's just Christmas. We don't have to do jingle bells, right? Bring your community in through ministry. Utilize your ministry to bring the community into your church. What strengths does your ministry have that you can utilize and leverage for non-members? Can you show the kindness of Christianity in a secular way? Kindness, right, in a secular way. There was a session here I really wanted to go to. I don't know if anyone went to the Academy of the Arts one. Did anyone else go to that? The music lessons. We tried that for a minute. I'll show, I think I have. Oh, I think I might have taken it out. We tried that for a minute. We did a Summit Music Academy. I didn't have enough bandwidth to get it off the ground, I think. We had like group classes, and the group classes were pretty popular. We didn't make much money. And I know church is not about making money, but like in the end, we have to operate, right? We have to operate. And so you want to make sure you're at least revenizing, if that's a word, what you're doing to make sure you're not negatively impacting your congregation too, in your attempt to bring your ministry into the community. So bring your community in through music or through ministry. Camp Summit was created. It was like 90% community. Like we did.
It was 80% outreach, 20% inreach.
Yeah. Was it 6 hours a day or was it 4 hours a day? Was it 9 to 2 originally?
Yeah.
9 to 2, $40 for the week. Like parents jumped on that so quick. It's essentially free daycare, right? And so we learned music all day, but we learned Christian songs. Like we talked about rhythm and tempo. What I didn't like about it was too surface in music. Like I didn't really feel like I had a classroom that was all over the place in content knowledge, right? Like I had that 7-year-old that could read music next to the person who doesn't match pitch. Like it just, for me, music does not correlate to age in ability sometimes. And so it was too hard to understand curricularly where I was going. What we changed it into, we did songwriting classes. We had a really, really talented keys player for a while that had degrees in songwriting from Berkeley. And we leveraged that as much as we could. So Camp Summit is coming back, Creative Arts Camp. This is important. I think churches don't allow themselves to think business model sometimes because they're like, we're here for ministry, we're here for mission. Business model matters to keep you open, right? And so we're doing the same camp 3 times. We've developed a camp that we can repeat. In that repeatability, we only have to buy the resource once. We only have to build the curriculum once. We can just keep duplicating it. The second camp adds revenue. The third camp adds revenue. We're going to make up to $17,000 on this one camp if we have it at full capacity 3 times. We're doing it once in June, once in July, once in August. Time, this is a little thin. Sorry, I could have made this bigger. But it's 9 to 2. It's 3-year-olds to 10-year-olds because that's the demographic we decided we could get the most of in our area. We're doing music, art, dance, and drama. Monday is art, Tuesday is music, Wednesday is imagination and dress up and dance, and Thursday is music, and Friday is art. And so we're just doing 45-minute sessions. We only have to really come up with 2 big activities a day, 2 to 3 activities a day. And I can send you guys, if anyone reaches out and wants that content, I'll send it to you.
So do you just have awesome volunteers that are able to make this happen? Because think about it in the sense of like VBS, right?
Yeah, this is our VBS, yeah. Well, we've broken it out into days, and actually Julie and I were just talking about this because that's what I hated about this. It was exhausting to our volunteers, and it was exhausting to our music ministry, right? Because we were like carrying the weight of it, and it barely broke even. And I'm like, why? Like, I'm sorry, I do have a bit of a business mindset. Why am I'm in this ministry for people and for God's mission and for God's calling. But I also want to keep it efficient. Like, this was not efficient. And so what's awesome about this is I think we've gained volunteers quicker and faster because we can say, I need you on Thursdays, 3 days this summer. Okay, I'll do that.
Thursday is the music day. And I'm like, I can do 1 day.
Julie's going to run my contemporary room on Thursdays for 3 days. That's all her commitment is. I'm going to build the curriculum. All of our teachers are invited to the curriculum building day. We're going to provide some lunch and talk about ideas. But the DCE and I are prepping all of it. So she's full-time, I'm not, I'm part-time. So I do have one staff member working with me on this that's full-time. And so I think that's what it takes, right? And we've started planning in January or in October.
This is nice because you have the music people 1 day a week, you have the art people 1 day a week.
Yeah.
You have the sports people or whatever it is, whatever.
Yeah.
Theater people 1 day a week.
Yeah.
And so that, by spreading it out, it took the burden off of one music ministry.
And
We did the music camp, to be fair, was because our church is incredibly gifted.
with musicians. For whatever reason, my husband's very big on the work with what God's given you,
Yeah.
because that's a ministry area for you. And for whatever reason, God blessed us with a ton of amazing musicians. Katie is just the tip of the iceberg, right? Like it's, and so he was like, let's do this, and utilize and show the world the gifts God gave us. It's not sustainable, is what it turned out to be, and that's why they're sort of rethinking how it works. But they're taking what worked and improving on it, and that's what we all do, right?
Yeah, absolutely, thank you. We have a 5-year model that we're conceptualizing for build out of Camps Weekly through summer. That's gonna be harder for volunteers, right? Like, but if we're smart enough to be like, well, we need you for these 3 days, we need you for these 3 days, like it adds up, right? And if you have 1 or 2 people monitoring all of it, I wanna build a program that will bring my church $50,000 in revenue in 5 years. I wanna sustain my entire ministry through a summer program. And that's not because we can't afford us, right? Like, we're all built into the budget, but like, why do we have to just afford us? Why can't I bring something back to the church too? Yeah, any questions on that? We also do community concerts. This is kind of just more standard, but we do community concerts. Either we'll do a spring concert or a Christmas concert. I've got some of the, Oh Love, Amazing Grace, the River Song. I Sing Because I'm Happy. Alternate between concepts conceptualized for your congregation and for the community. Consider a free concert with no community plate. Don't make them feel like you're just bringing them in for their money. Don't have a community plate. Find ways for community members to walk into your sanctuary outside of service time. Let your community band use the space for free. Let the piano teacher down the road use the space for free. Anytime a stranger can walk into your space and be like, I've always wondered what it looked like in here.
And that's what we do. We do.
Let them.
Yeah, our Thornton Community Band rehearses in our church. So that, to them, that's, again, their church. And then we have people hold their
Sunday.
recitals. A lot of the music teachers in the area that teach from home, they hold their recitals in our church.
And we have a homeschool group, right, on Fridays.
Yeah, homeschool group on Fridays.
Summon a Peace, Christmas concert, God's Gifts. I think we're doing okay on time. Yeah, okay, 20 minutes. Yeah, Summon a Peace, Christmas concert, God's Gift. This was the most recent one we did. In fact, this was honestly a bit stressful because I went on vacation in November. It was our 10th wedding anniversary. We wanted to take Nolan to SeaWorld. It was so much fun, except the fact that he was hospitalized with pneumonia the week before. But we got like clearance. We went to San Diego. We unplugged. We renewed with our 10-year anniversary. And the day I'm coming back, I get a text from our Bell director. There's a new mask mandate in our county. Like, they brought back the mask mandate. And for good reason. I was not in any way against that.
Yeah, I don't know what the rest of yours were like, but Colorado was, you need them, you don't need them.
But this was 2 weeks into that mask mandate. I had already prepped all of the music. And then it became like, okay, do we sing up there do we use our guidelines for worship or do we use our guidelines for performance in the state? Like, we're reading our handbooks, we're looking at what's allowed. Do we allow them to unmask? My organist was about to walk because she was mad that the choir was trying to rehearse unmasked. Some choir members were wearing masks, some weren't. She was yelling at me in text message, like, I was trying to explain to her, this is ministry. Like, I cannot require this or that. Some people can. Like, my pastor and I talked about it a lot. We're ministry, right? Like, so it's their choice to come. We can get into a discussion about it, but it was a thing. So the concert went great. It was not a super spreader event, so consider it a win. Strategies for working with all volunteers and part-time staff. create databases. You know, you've probably heard this from other people too, but create databases in cloud formats where everyone can access it, consider free platforms where directors can comment and organize and communicate with pastoral staff together. This began out of pure necessity to ensure all weeks were covered, but we've included themes. We keep, this theme document running.
Google spreadsheet is our friend.
We love it. This is how we adapted to the new, right? So now we have camera, projection, sound, singer, scheduling notes. Because the singer comes from the congregation, and because the singer is typically apt to do sound or projection or camera also, just because of personality type, we have to keep this all in one place. So we'll do a spreadsheet, and then you've got like this is our director of operations family. They're not available this week. This is Julie's family. We're not available this week. So then we have to, and we figure this out 3 months out. So we know where our volunteers are going to be.
So why do you use this rather than Planning Center?
We can plug it into Planning Center on a weekly basis, but we use this as just like a macro tool with our office to figure out as a matrix.
You can see it all in one place like this, and then they can volunteer what they do.
Yeah, or they plug it in. I mean, we do have quite a few tools in our wheelhouse. We plug it into CCB, which is like our church's directory / operation / Planning Center. I know Planning Center has some other like modules attached, but our previous director of operations was really big into CCB, Church Community Builder. And so we have that for our congregation, and then we have this for our operation. And because I don't want 50 login required for Planning Center, I only have like my volunteers in Planning Center. I have my sound people, my singers, my band, the pastors. Like we have, and then all my subs that come in, I give them all PC logins.
Everybody in there, the acolytes.
Yeah.
There's some freshmen team.
Yeah, that works too. If it works for you, then that's awesome. But because we have CCB, it was a bit of a dynamic. You know how that goes. So this is me saying I've pared it down. So actually you can see in here when special music, this is special music, so you can see how many times the choir is singing right here. Like I'm honestly, maybe it's because I'm a new mom, maybe it's because these are all the Lent winks. Like I used to make a youth kiddo sing every special music Lent.
So now,
I've kind of pulled that away for a bit.
but also in your defense, the kids are what's not back yet.
Yeah. I tried to do a children's song on Christmas Eve. I had 6 kids. We used to have 90. Like, I'm like perplexed on it. Because they're there, they're around. But it's been kind of tied into our Sunday morning Bible study, and that's kind of changed over time too. And so I don't know what's going on there, but it's okay.
Kids are having a hard time committing to just about anything.
Yeah.
But the one thing I've learned is it's universal. Everybody has said the kids aren't back, pretty much across the board. So
We have these,
feeling less.
yeah, we're not taking it personally. But we're also not going to put in our time and resource when there's something that's not just like working.
We have the same problem.
Yeah.
We have 0 youth right now.
Yeah.
We had 20 in the last week. Like, we have 0.
Wow.
Like, that's another question.
And actually, that's something I was posing last night as a question. We really intentionally reached out to our elderly. We called them weekly. We did not call the 30-somethings and 40-somethings weekly. We used social media to do that, and I love social media. I'm a millennial, but social media is a little more passive and indirect, and we didn't call our families weekly or monthly. We wrote them letters, kind of like we sent postcards. We did social media, we sent emails weekly, but we're still not actually talking to them sometimes. And I think that's something every church should talk about. This is one of our spreadsheets with like all of the kids and what they do, so we know what they're involved with outside of school. Like if we know someone's taking trumpet lessons, we'll try to plug them in. And this is our times and talent sheet. If anyone wants something similar for their congregation, let us know. We can share this. But we do this in September or October, always at the beginning of the season, times and talents, like create, it's grow in faith. Here's back to our mission. Do you want to be a worship helper? Do you want to be a music ministry person? Do you want to do cross training? Do you want to help with middle school kids? Do you want to do camp ministry? Do you want to do youth music and special events? The other page has like, I want to be a reader. I want to be a, and so we collect yearly what our congregational members are interested in doing. And then we have that.
And then sheet on the left, that was one, so I started the youth ministry 10 years ago, the youth choir 10 years ago, before Katie was there.
Yeah.
And I started the spreadsheet, just so I could keep track of the kids every year, move them up and added new kids, and just kind of track them over the years. So then it made it easier when I handed off a couple of years ago, just saying, here's kind of what I've been doing, but it was just a good way to know what their gifts and talents were and to encourage them to use it in ministry, not just at school. And it's quite a few of them. They're in the choir now, they play bells, they play their instruments in church.
So every child in your whole congregation, you have a track now?
I had it on a spreadsheet.
How'd you
I
get
know.
that info?
Huh?
Did you just ask parents for that information?
Oh, I hit our DCE up for that information. No, I hit the DCE up for the original list. And then I kept the rest of this, because I would talk to the kids. I would see them, I taught Sunday school, and
Yeah.
youth choir in between. And so between the two, I'd be like, oh, they just started trumpet lessons in 5th grade. And I noted that.
Pop it in.
You know, and I just started kept track, like, can you still do trumpet lessons? Or I checked back in.
It doesn't take that
It
long.
just takes a conversation, and then sometimes the parents would say, so-and-so started playing trombone, and maybe you could do it. I'm like, got it, I put it in my spreadsheet, and the next time something came up, or so-and-so's taking piano lessons, I was like, oh, do they want to prepare something with their teacher? Prepare one of the Christmas hymns or something, and they can play during it?
You can't strategize unless you know your resources.
So I just started making a list and writing them in, and if they started playing, if they joined our, so we have a bell choir that starts in 5th grade. And if they joined our bell choir in 5th grade,
Popped it on there.
if we were doing a Christmas.
And then you also would update this, right, with their year, like you would just do an automation and
Yeah,
update.
I flip it.
You just
Then
batch it.
If I'd be preparing them for a Christmas program, I'd be using practicing music, and I would say, so I have 4 parts where I could use somebody who could do solos, 4 solo parts. Anybody interested, let me know. And if they came and expressed interest, I marked that on the page too, as potential local soloists or something like that. So it just kind of let me know who are the kids who actually love this.
Yeah.
have a passion for this. And like I said, before COVID, we had 90 kids in our choir, our kids choir.
Yeah.
So now we're just struggling to get them back and we're going to restart it all over again. But it was, it was fun.
It was
My
fun.
kids are just older, so I was sort of like, oh, these times I had to have somebody with the kids. My kids are going to college, so.
And I had a kiddo, so we had that conversation. Like, I was so happy to have Julie in youth music. I'm taking youth music a little more now. I'm taking youth music now. I should just say it. I'll own it. I'm taking it. And I thought for a long time about handing the choir off, right? Like, but I don't want to. My husband wants me to. I'm figuring it out. My 2-year-old's doing a little better. He was really like clingy for like that 6-month period of 18 months to 2. But he's independent now and everyone's his best friend. My friends! So there's a little girl down the street that watches him during choir and we're figuring it out. Choir library, cantatas, collection books, solo voice scores, brass instrumental scores, organ piano duets, the list goes on. If you don't have your music cataloged, you should. That needs to be your project this year. Cataloged. I had 10 boxes of music that I had to catalog.
And file.
And yeah, Craigslist, buying everything on Craigslist, all the different like organizers. And then actually, I couldn't really keep this up on my own. that Sarah, the person just popped in, that's our director of operations, her mom worked for me over COVID and cataloged everything that I hadn't and reconciled it all, and then built out cantatas, collection books, solo scores, brass scores for me. Super, super helpful, and fixed like the things that had been re-added wrong or whatever. Yeah. But then this is the stuff I want to know, right? Composer, arranger, arrangement, type, seasons, special day that you could utilize it, reading correlation, comments. That stuff is not in on the things that Sarah's mom added for me because she's not a musician. Yeah.
So you don't use Planning Center for that?
This was way before Planning Center. Yeah.
So a lot of these initial setup things, we didn't have planning.
This is
systems
just my,
until-
this is my choral library. This is my choral music library. I could probably do it on Planning Center. Can I do this on Planning Center?
Yeah, you can, because obviously you can, like, have little tags or
Yeah.
categories that you can just say, search for, I call
Yeah.
it tier 1 music, one everyone knows that.
Tier 1, yeah, that's nice.
Because
I mean, I'll think about it.
You started with this how many years ago?
8 or 9 years ago.
And we've only
Yeah.
had planning center maybe 4 to 5.
5, yeah, I think
So
5
a lot-
years.
Yeah, a lot of our starter things were pre-planning center.
And I could do that work. I could. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I do. I mean, I tag everything contemporary. And that's honestly what I've done. Like, Planning Center has my hymns and my contemporary music. This is just my choral stuff and my classical stuff. So, and then this is CCB, Community Church Builder. So you can have your ministry and your participants. Community Church Builder. We do like it a lot. You can do we do our giving through it. We have our needs through it. So like our needs would be a Lenten meal, right? Like you can put a Lenten meal. We don't need to use Sign Up Genius at all anymore. We do our Lenten meal as a need, and then all the things we need for that, main dish, whatever.
Yeah, this is our Sign Up Genius, church directory, volunteer notification system, calendar, and giving tool all in one.
Yeah.
It's called Church Community Builder.
It is very nice. The only thing that, and you can do forms through here. So you can build forms for events, and then you can do payment to the same spot that's giving, and it's associated to PushPay. PushPay? Is that what it's called? Yeah, PushPay, which is Christian-based.
Is it an app also?
Yeah, it is. CCB.
Oh, CCD.
CCB, and then they do have an app. The app for the leaders is called Lead, and I'm pretty sure the other people have an app too, but like I have the Lead app, and the Lead app gives me the ability to look up anyone, phone number, address, age, student, child's name. I'll be like, I know that person, what's their son's name, and I'll look it up all the time. So these are the other sessions we did. The majority of them were recorded, so you can go in and look. They're all going to tie back to our mission and vision and our culture. We've done a lot in women's ministry over the last few years. I would encourage you to watch that one. We've done a lot in small groups over the last few years. Julie's is recorded from the last few years on marketing, and it hasn't, like we brought the same content that we've developed, so you can go back and listen to that too.
Yeah, I didn't record today.
We already had it on file. Yeah. So anyway, we've got a lot of content across, and that's our Bitly with all of our resources and our QR. So, but just email me too. I have I'm on the Summit of Peace website, kr@summitofpeace.org. So I hope you found something helpful today.
I always consider best practices of a session a win if I walked out with one idea.
Yeah, I feel that way too.
Because like 80% of it you guys could already do, right? But if there's one idea that you take away,
Or there's one thing that you're like, oh man, I forgot about that. Or like, actually that matters to me more now than it did last time I heard it. Or whatever.